Hello and welcome back to another episode of Orange Juice, news and notes from around the world of Insoles. I am your host, Owen Kenoy, and today joining me is my sister, Mallory Kenoy, and also a producer of the podcast. Hey Mal, how are you?
Good. I just made it down to our southern office and escaped the Chicago cold, so I am very happy.
Yeah, good for you. Mallory is in Orange South, aka Florida, with Tom and Marcia. As many of you know, many of our listeners, we're a family-owned business, which means families go on vacations together and all that good stuff as well. So, Mallory, we're happy for you that you were able to escape.
Yeah, just in time. Right now, there's the huge snowstorm throughout the U.S. pretty much, mainly in the East, but glad to ditch it.
Yeah, and so today we do have a topic that we are going to dive into, and it's all about a balanced approach towards your everyday fitness. So, there's always, not always, but oftentimes a focus on, hey, like, what's my time? What's my like max weight I could do on this or that, or what's the best I could do in my activity? And there are definitely those moments that come about, but what we're talking about is how do you get there safely, sustainably, and also what happens to be interesting about this topic is it's also intertwined with like the longevity of your health and wellness journey as well. So, what you'll find is that both training towards being your best and uh, training just to sustain a long, fulfillable life are both very similar. So, we wanted to just dive into that and give you some guidelines on maybe how to hit each bucket, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like I've been thinking about it a lot, especially in the new year. We see so many just different trends and especially get quick or get results quick kind of solutions that aren't necessarily like the most sustainable or best for us in the long term. We really want to focus more on like what we want to be able to do when we're like 70, 80, 90 years old instead of like short-term aesthetic goals and like you said, like just hitting my 1 rep max today, but it might not be good for me in the long term. Um, we want to focus more on moving well, which to me that just means focusing on form, focusing on joint and bone health and injury prevention really. Over, running as fast as I can for as long as I can or lifting as much weight as I can um in a single day. So it's really about thinking ahead of when I'm 75, can I lift my grandchildren? Can I play with them? Can I still go on a bike ride with my partner? That's the things I want to be able to do. And how do we get there?
Very well said. And what you'd be surprised or maybe surprised to find out is that it can actually be a pretty simple route. So, Mallory, I think about our great grandma Schultz, who is 100, lived to be 109 years old. Yes, did have some mobility issues the last few years, I would say, of her life, but you know, she was walking around, moving, doing things she wanted, within reason at the age of 100. Um, and it was very cool to see her live like that and kind of her, I guess, what I'll say, fire and motivation to keep moving and keep living. And she grew up in the early 1900s where a lot of this science and data and that sort of thing wasn't around yet, but she worked on a lot of these basic buckets that we're going to talk about as well. So it is kind of more about like the, hey, let's peel it back and just get back to like the everyday health and wellness, like what's actually good movement for your body. And if we think back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you can think about how these same buckets were used for healthy folks back in even like the 1800s or whatever it is, in totally different methods. But hopefully that helps kind of set the stage of just how simple it can be, and that's kind of the point of it. not just for longevity, but also like we hit on, it can help you be your best when you are a performance athlete. So we've had like endurance athletes. Obviously, Chris Gregory has been on several episodes lately. And then we had Michael Cannon as well, who is another endurance athlete, done all sorts of long form racing and events and that sort of thing. And they both have preached about how important these different buckets are as well. You can't just focus on the one activity. It's more about being well rounded. So, with that said, and we'll get into the buckets in more detail, but the first one is strength, and then you have cardio, third bucket, mobility, and then the last one is balance. So put it all together: strength, cardio, mobility, and balance. Seems like it can be pretty simple. We're going to break it down into what each one means and give you some practical tips on just how to hit on all four buckets. So first off, I mentioned strength or like strength training. So this is really a great foundation. And it's non-negotiable for long-term health because really a few reasons. First off, it helps with your bone density. So as you age, your bones are naturally going to lose that bone density. That's where you hear about, maybe some more senior folks who might break an arm more easily, or a leg or a hip or whatever it is. In part, it's because of that bone density. But if you're doing this strength training, you're going to help maintain that as you do age. The also other thing as well is muscle mass preservation. So right along with bone density, muscle mass naturally starts to decrease as you continue to age. So what can you do to help that out? Do some strength training. So strengthening your muscles to either maintain where they're currently at, or even to keep getting stronger. At a certain point, the reality is maintaining is going to be a win. So just keeping that in mind and using strength training as a tool for muscle mass preservation. And then the final thing as well, and really all of these are going to help with this, but just with like general metabolic health, when you are doing these exercises, they absolutely help your blood flow and your system get moving more effectively. It's going to help with things like digestion, and just other overall health and wellness tools to kind of help your body function more appropriately. You think about like water intake and that sort of thing. It's very similar, where it just helps your body get moving and get functioning. So what exercises can we do? All sorts of things. A few that stick out as more like general exercises are squats, whether that's with or without weights. Lunges are another great one, especially for a lower body strength. And then you got your classic like push and pull movements. So when you think about that, like push is like your bench press, so to speak, and then pull would be maybe doing like a weighted row machine, or even like curls, something like that. So you don't necessarily have to have a full gym set at home or even a gym membership. You can do a lot of this training just simply with resistance bands. So you can get resistance bands that are different thicknesses. The thicker it is, the more resistance it's going to give you. But then you can play with kind of what the best resistance band is for different exercises. And if you need help figuring out, hey, where do I start? There's so many exercises that you can look up. I mean, we talked about in the past using like an AI tool like ChatGPT, but also YouTube is going to have a seemingly infinite inventory of videos.
And you can't forget the favorites of the push and pull movement, push ups and pull ups.
Oh my gosh, what am I thinking? So
Uh,
classic.
and you can pretty much do it anywhere. I feel like a lot of public parks now have like the pull up bars, and then you can always throw in some push ups at home. Um, but yeah, it's really I've been thinking about strength training a lot in my longevity. Women in general just have more issues with bone density, and we need to be more aware. And then I personally am on a medication that puts my bone density at more risk. So I already have to take my calcium and vitamin D supplements, and I really am trying to weight lift because I don't want osteoporosis when I am, 60, 70. And it is really weird sometimes to have to think like that because I'm 26, but it's really important that you kind of know that because it's hard to kind of you're never a lost cause, if you're listening to this and you are, already later in life, anything you do will help. But the earlier you start, the even more prevention you can have. So if you're younger, really, it's important to start thinking about it now. And if you are older, it is not too late. Anything you do now can help. Um, just a random side tangent, but it is so important to start thinking like that. Um, and none of this has to be like extreme or crazy. If you can just start throwing it in like 2 or 3 times a week, again, those quick sessions, can you do 20 minutes at home of like body weight movement? Like that's a great start.
Even like a
It's
daily 5 minutes, right, Mallory? Like
yeah,
one
just
exercise
knock
each
out
day.
push-ups. Yeah, try to build up your push-ups or something for a while. Or if you have like a pull-up bar at home, start with some like dead hangs and shoulder shrugs and then see if you can get your first pull-up. It doesn't have to be crazy, but you're building up that strength. Um, Yeah, so it's not really a option, I think most doctors will tell you that. This is kind of like insurance to prevent long-term injuries, so we're not breaking hips and things, when we're older. Another really important thing that you can do for your long-term health is include cardio, and a lot of us hate cardio. I am the first one to say that. I am not Chris Gregory, I am not a great lover of running. However, on my own fitness journey, the first exercise I stuck to was walking. Partially because it was summer after my freshman year in college and I decided to stay, but freshmen don't usually stay. So all my friends left and I had a lot of time to fill. So I would walk all around town and check her out all the new stores. And I started getting like 2, 3 miles in a day, which is like really 6,000 steps, but I was doing like 2,000 before. So that was like a really big step up for me. Now I'm doing like 10,000 a day, 6, 7 years later. So it's just like the one thing I've really loved and built up over time. And I love listening to my music. I love spending time with myself, listening to an audiobook. It can be really great, just a overall self care for you thing too. Why it's good for our long term health, it's low impact. It's sustainable. Like you can walk anywhere. You can pace around your house. You can walk right outside. You can go to a mall. You can walk on a treadmill, really easy to do. And yeah, it's also that zone 2 cardio. So there's like casual walking. I would encourage you to try to get your heart rate up a bit. But zone 2 is usually referred to as that conversational pace. So it's your heart's moving, you're working, but you can talk to your friend next to you and not be like, so that's kind of what we're going for there. But the whole thing is like doing it consistently over I'm gonna walk 20,000 steps one day and now I don't wanna ever do this again. So if you can just start upping if you have any way to track, if say you start and you know your baseline's 3,000, try to hit 4,000 the next week. Then maybe 4,500. You don't have to go up in crazy amounts, but really just start there, and that's a really great way to even get into cardio, and then maybe you'll find a passion for it and wanna start running or doing other forms as well.
Really well said, and, that really is the foundation for your cardio is something like that, and then, you know, as a, I guess, general guideline or something to look at. Everyone is different, but then mixing in the more intense workouts, just on occasion, it is really going to help with your overall cardio and heart endurance as well. So it's not that you need to do these super intense workouts every day. For a long time, a lot of it is like Mallory said, just getting to that zone 2 level, or just like a point where you're walking and still able to have a conversation. So hopefully it's not a whole daunting task of cardio, because I know when I hear cardio, I'm like, oh Lord, here we go, cardio. But it is important to mix it in, and when possible, uh, maybe not just do walking or running, but mixing in swimming or bike riding or a different activity as well, just to work different muscles and again, be a more well-rounded individual who is able to do a variety of exercises. Of course, the one thing I don't want to overlook on all of this as well is when you are uh, putting in more miles or more steps, or I guess more impact on your body, it does take time to get used to that. a tool that you can use. Obviously, we're an insole company, Orange Insoles. Our insoles. So if you do have the insoles in your shoes, it's going to give you more support than you would normally have, and that support is going to help your feet as they are adjusting to this greater intensity level. It is important to note that it's not just for your feet as well. Yes, that's where it starts by aligning your feet, but having aligned feet also helps your ankles, your knees, your hips, and even your lower back. So if you're someone who has tried to kind of ramp up the intensity or mileage or whatever it is in the past and have not been overly successful, a simple tool that you could try out could be insoles, just to give you that more support as you're ramping things up. Um, Kind of transitioning away from cardio, though, another important bucket is mobility and how it plays a role in joint health as well. So, when you think about aging, a lot of folks will talk about, man, like I just feel stiffer, especially in the morning, or I can't move the way I used to, or whatever it is. And that's where mobility is really going to be something that you could benefit from. So these are actually really like simple exercises that you can do. The main ones I think of are like your toes and your feet, your ankles. There's hip mobility exercises that you can do. And then obviously also like there's shoulder mobility exercises you can do as well. So with that, just these daily movements are going to make a difference in keeping your joints loose and again preventing that over stiffness. Now, there are certain cases where like arthritis might start to develop or something like that as you age. And that would be important to get like medical advice or specific exercises to work on. But for mobility, I guess just like preventative mobility, there are super simple things you can do, like the ankle alphabets. So literally use your ankles and like draw or use your feet and like draw the alphabet with your feet, and then that's going to work your ankles. Even just like scrunching your toes is going to work the muscles in your feet in a way that they normally wouldn't and help the mobility. And then again, there's all sorts of different exercises that you can look up online or through like an AI tool or whatever it may be.
One of my favorite hip mobility drills is you're sitting on the ground with your legs straight in front of you and you put a yoga block on the side of your leg. You have to squeeze your quad, squeeze your knee, lift your leg straight up, move it over the yoga block, come back. And trust me, it is way harder than it seems. And then if you get really good at it, you can bend your knee back and do like full that thing. So it's humbling. Um, and it's also important to kind of note here, and we've talked about this before, we have full podcasts on this, but when we talk about mobility, we're not talking about passive flexibility, like just the ability to touch your toes or do the splits. The best way for me to describe it, and you can kind of call it mobility, you could call it active flexibility, pretty similar, but to me, the difference is if I'm sitting on the ground in my splits, that is, our passive flexibility. If someone were to come over and just pick me up off the ground, can I still hold the split? And the difference there is your muscles are working to hold. So it's like a strength movement and a flexibility movement instead of just flexibility. So your muscles have to have the ability to hold your legs up in that full active range of motion. So that's what we want you to more focus on because it's not just flexibility, it's flexibility and strength, and being able to move your body in a full range of motion with control and strength. So, like, if I'm lifting my leg up in the air, if I release it, am I gonna is it gonna flip down or can I slowly lower it down? That's mobility. That's the strength and control. Um, and you can do these kind of drills as part of your warm up or your cool down. So it's an add on to your routine. Make it work for you. If you're familiar with habit stacking, that's kind of what you should do. It's a great way to start incorporating it instead of being like, oh, now I have to do a 5 minutes of mobility on top of every. Just add it to something you already do every day. Make it easy on yourself. You don't have to do another like 30 minutes to an hour of mobility on top of your workout. Just do 5 to 10 minutes before or after, call it a day. So as long as you're doing this stuff consistently, that will go so much farther long term.
Yeah, and I know we've already kind of emphasized this, but it's not about being perfect with all four of these buckets. It's just about being aware of them and, when possible, like not neglecting them, right? And maybe that's how you think about like, hey, what area have I been neglecting? Okay, I want to mix some of that in. So just being aware of these four different areas, and again, making sure that each one of them is a priority at some point or in some fashion, whatever that means to you.
Yeah. Something that's kind of similar, I think, to mobility because it's neglected and we don't think about, like, I personally don't think about it, even though it is something I don't personally neglect, but until today, I actually haven't been front of mind on it. But it's really that balance and stability. Um, as we know, as we get older, once that balance starts to go, that's what tends to lead to the falls that lead to the broken bones. This is why it's all interconnected here.
Exactly.
Um, so, really great ways to work on our balance is those single leg exercises. So, like the lunges, our step ups, our single leg RDLs. There's a lot of great yoga like classes that incorporate balance. If you've been working on your tree pose, like things like that, those are single leg stands that are really, great to work on. And a lot of the balance really comes from your core more than anything. And that core stability is so important as you age. Just to do any kind of functional movement, all of that really comes from your core. So really focus on that, and so you can do core exercises, I would suggest, and these balancing exercises if you can incorporate them into your routine. They kinda go hand in hand. The core is kinda like that stability, then you're practicing it with the balance, and working on that there. But that's something we often neglect, but is so important when you actually think about what it's like to get older in age.
Very true, and it's Mallory focused on the core, which obviously is the core of your body and important. But me being the insole guy, it's the same thing for your foot, right? And the foot is the foundation of your body, and making sure that your foot maintains strong balance and stability is really important as well. And there are super simple ways to make sure that you're strengthening your foot or maintaining that balance and stability, even just barefoot walking, allowing your feet to feel the terrain underneath them and adjust accordingly, can really help with that. So you could do it on like unstable surfaces if you have like a safe area and whatnot. But the first thing that comes to mind is even just like walking in sand or on the beach. Doing something like that is really going to help with your balance and stability. But not only just focusing on your core, but also your feet as well, should really help. Again, maintain a more holistic approach to your balance and stability. Excuse me. But the bottom line here is you don't need some new like extreme training incorporated into your life to see your like overall health and wellness and mobility maintain while you age. That is not what you have to do, but really it's about consistency in the four buckets we mentioned. So again, that's strengthening, like like weight exercises potentially, or resistance band exercises, cardio, mobility, and balance. So if you just make sure to stay conscious of those four areas, we think, or actually we know, that you'll see the results.
Yeah, next time you're kinda tempted to do that ego lift or that, crazy workout you know that might not be good for you, imagine yourself at 70. What would they want? What would be best for that person? And maybe start there. And like Owen mentioned earlier, you don't need to do all of this tomorrow and change your whole routine in life. Just pick that one area to start that you feel like you may have been neglecting and start 5 to 10 minutes there. And that's a perfectly great way to begin.
Well said. We appreciate you guys listening to this episode of Orange Juice. And if you do care to like, comment, or subscribe, we would greatly appreciate it. We're always open to hearing your ideas and feedback to make future episodes better. But we will be back with more information. Thanks so much for listening.